Welcome everybody to the Single and Stiletto Show. I'm Suzanne Oshima and I'm a matchmaker and dating coach at Dream Bachelor and Bachelorette, and I'm also the founder of Single and Stilettos. Today we have on our show Dr. Jed Diamond, and he's the accomplished author of many books, but most recently of The Enlightened Marriage. And I'm so excited to have him here today because today he's going to talk about what to do when he says, I'm not in love with you. And I know that's like the worst thing a woman can hear, especially if you're in love with this man. But he's going to tell you what you really need to do when you hear those words. But before we jump into it, Jed, I would love for you to tell our audience how you became a psychotherapist that focuses on relationships and specifically with men's issues in relationships.
Well, it's really both personal and professional. Personally, that old saying that you teach what you want to learn, I think was really true, is that I had really difficult relationships. I grew up in a family where my father was gone from the time I was 5. My mother and he split up, and I was raised by a single mom. And so I didn't really have a good understanding from my own upbringing about what made a good relationship. And, like many people, I got in a relationship hoping to fall in love and live happily ever after, but didn't work out that way. I was married, had 2 wonderful children, but the marriage ended, and I got in another relationship, and that lasted for a while, and that marriage ended. And the odds of having a good relationship are not that good first time around. Second time around, they're even worse, and third time around, they're even worse than that. So I vowed that I would do everything I could to figure out how to have a good relationship so that third time around would work for me. And I learned a lot. I did a lot of personal therapy work myself. And the result was when I did meet Carlin, my present wife, we both knew things that we hadn't known before, had experiences that really helped us, and we've been together now for 37 years and really have learned some powerful things about how to have a good relationship. So that was the personal part. The professional part was, I've been a psychotherapist for more than 40 years, and I see, couples, individuals and couples in my practice that really want to have good relationships, either not in a relationship and they want to get in one, or they're in a relationship and they want to be sure it works well. But often the blocks have to do with men's issues, things like male depression, irritable male syndrome, things that I discovered were blocks to relationship that most men and women didn't know about. So putting all those together really became my calling and hopefully my gift to the world of what I can share with others that will be helpful to them.
Well, it will be helpful, which is exactly why I asked you to be a guest on the show. So let's jump into it. So what should a woman do when a man says to her, I'm not in love with you?
Well, it's something that I think all of us have heard at some point in our lives. It comes in different variations. Often a common one will be, I love you, I still love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore. And then, after you feel that stab to your heart or that, kick to your gut, it's like, and often followed by that is maybe we should separate or, it's just not working out, or, we need a little break, or maybe we should, see other, there's variations on the theme. But the truth is, what is being said is not usually what the man is trying to say, and often not what the woman is actually hearing. And let me just say a couple of things about what I think is really going on. From the woman's point of view, when she hears those words, it's like you said, you go into shock almost. It really is like being stabbed, or you're basically in trauma. So when you hear the words, you actually go out of your mind. You really go into another altered state, and you don't really hear what's going on. You don't really know what's going on. And from the man's side, what I've learned in counseling men for, more than 40 years is often what he's saying is not the relationship needs to end, but he's saying, I'm unhappy. There's something about what's going on that's causing pain, and I don't know what else to do. In his world, often the only thing he knows to do is to say, let's change things. And what he feels is something in me is different. And it translates to, I'm not in love with you anymore. There's a lot more to that story that we can learn once we get past the initial shock.
Right. So what's the second thing that a woman should do?
Well, the first thing is don't panic. That's not easy to do when you're feeling, I've been stabbed, don't panic. But if you can, okay, let's get myself back in my body, let me ground myself, the things you need to do to come home to yourself. Then the second thing is tell me more. I want to understand more, because usually there's, oh my God, how can I talk you out of it? How can I change your mind? How can I, no, you can't do this. And the tendency is to resist hearing more because you're afraid the more is going to be even worse than what you heard.
Right.
But what needs to happen is something is not right in the relationship. And until you know more, you're not going to know what to do. So the second thing is talk more. Tell me more. Tell me what you're feeling. What's going on? Clearly you're unhappy. Tell me more about what's going on. And that might feel more threatening. That's why the first step is you have to deal with the initial panic, and you need to and that can take days, weeks, sometimes to get myself calm, talk to my girlfriends, get myself back in my body to be able to do the second stage, which is tell me more. But if you can then at some point do that, you begin to get more of the story. And that's where the healing can come. And we'll talk about what usually more of the story is.
Okay, so what is more of the story, and what can a woman do? Because what I'm hearing from you is that it's not necessarily over.
Right.
And see, I think a lot of women think that when they hear those words, I'm not in love with you, they immediately think it's over.
Right.
So we want to know more.
Okay, so here's the more. First thing we need to know about more, and you touched on it, is that in love, that emotional feeling of in love is a feeling that is short-lived. It isn't meant to last forever. So when a man says, I'm not in love with you, rather than feeling like, oh, God, it's over, how can you be with somebody you're not in love with? You need to recognize that there's two kinds of in love. One kind of in love is an emotional feeling that comes from that excitement when we're, either when we first met, or as I said, that you recapture again in a later stage of relationship. Mm-hmm. That is transitory. The deeper feeling of deep loving is something that can still be there in the relationship. And not only can you feel a deeper sense of connection if you go deeper, but you can also recapture the in love feeling. Because what many men feel, and women often feel the same way, is that if you're no longer in love, it's a signal that the relationship is died. It's the first, it's the death knell. Rather than, oh yeah, we all fall out of love at different times, and we can fall back in love if you know what real love is and how to do that. So the third thing is I say, all right, that's just the beginning of going deeper. It's often the beginning of what I call stage 3, disillusionment, because that's often where you hear the "I'm not in love with you." And that's where I say we can, if you don't panic and you can ground yourself and you can get more of the story, you can find out, oh, this is just a signal that our relationship is at a time where it needs to go deeper, and we need to find a deeper sense of connection that is there and possible if we don't, one or the other of us, panic and bail out too soon.
Well, and I think it's important to stress that it's both parties have to want to work at it, right?
Yeah.
And the other part that I really want to stress to the ladies out there is don't freak out. Like, don't start yelling at him when he says these words, because I think Jed really shed some light on the relationship may not be over. So it's important, as hard as it is, to try to remain calm and just listen and hear what he's saying. So then you can fix it.
Right.
Or work
and
together.
I give people a little just thing that came up in my practice is often men will say, who are married, they'll say, my wife's the problem. I'm no longer in love with my wife. Same thing with your girlfriend, your relate, whatever it is. So in the marriage, I say, when I work with the guys, it really isn't your wife that's the problem. It's your life that's the problem. So often when men say, I'm not in love with you, rather than you being the problem, it's the man and his life and his unhappiness is the problem. If you listen to him, that's why it's so important to say, yes, and tell me more. You're going to find out that it's more, and it actually is 90% of the time, it isn't you that is the issue. It's the broader issues in his life. And if you will listen more deeply together, you can find that deeper place where couples come back together and can meet now in a much deeper, more intimate way, even than they were at this earlier stage.
Well, these have been some great tips. I know everybody learned a lot, including myself. So, Jed, can you tell our audience where they can find you?
Sure. They can come to my website, www.menalive.com, menalive.com. And for those that do come visit me there, you can find my articles, my my various postings, and also as a kind of a free gift to those that do join my mailing list, I have a very interesting video that I offer for free to people with Iyanla Vanzant, and many of you know her as one of the prime people on the Oprah network. She has a show, Iyanla Saved My Life. And I've known her for years. We did a class together. As part of the class, she shared some very personal and intimate details about the things in her life that had gotten in the way of her connecting with men and understanding men. And she asks forgiveness, not for herself, but for the ways in which she did not understand men. And she then shares with us all what she's learned. So it's a very powerful, video. I recommend it to anybody that wants to come and download it for free. I think you'll learn a lot and find it very helpful and very engaging.
Awesome. So ladies, go to menalive.com to get your free gift from Jed. Thanks everybody for joining us on the Single and Stiletto Show. Our show is available both in video format and podcast format. If you'd like to view the videos, go to singleandstilettos.com. If you'd like to get the podcast, you can download it from iTunes. If you'd like to get our free ebook on the 3 secrets guaranteed to attract any man based on scientific research, just click right here on the video or go to singleandstilettos.com.